Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Kingsley Edwards, the CEO of Flote.app, which, by the way, before we get into the news today, and we do have a lot to go into, I want to tell everyone, please go over to Flote.app, Flote.app, as well as BitChute, and join us there because there's no point to even be on this website if you're watching on YouTube any longer. This is ridiculous. They've demonetized us. We're basically done on this site. So please go over to the other platforms. Anyway, hit the like button, share on social media, and help us get around the shadow banning. But let's go into the news. I want to first start by mentioning that Kingsley and I, well, Kingsley's lived in Las Vegas for a very long time. I moved there a couple of years ago. I've been in Mexico for the last 2 months or so. But I lived close by to Kingsley for quite some time, and we witnessed some interesting stuff right before I left. Obviously, the casinos were closed. Massive amounts of jobs were wiped out of the market. And all over numbers that we were told originally were 3.5% to 7% death toll, which is now down to 0.08% to 0.2%. The differences are massive, but one number that's extremely high is unemployment and what's affecting, people in Las Vegas. Of course, the mayor of Las Vegas has called for things to open for quite some time. However, the Governor Sisolak has had a very different agenda, and I'm going to go into this article before we go to Kingsley, which says from Fox 5, Nevada Governor Sisolak declares state of fiscal emergency amid COVID-19. And as the article says, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak has declared a state of fiscal emergency as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to cripple the local economy and public services. With shuttered casinos and hampered hospitality industry, financial experts are projecting a loss between $741 million and $911 million for the fiscal year ending June 30th, according to data collected by the governor's finance office and legislative council bureau. Fiscal division. Sisolak's office said the figure also includes the state distributive school account monies, which provide direct state financial aid to K-12 school districts and charter schools in Nevada. So let's kind of go into this a bit, Kingsley, because I can't even imagine how many jobs have been wiped out in Las Vegas, all based on this whole pandemic situation. Can you go into a little bit of what you've seen there in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I think even just after the first week, they had already mentioned about 200,000 plus jobs being wiped out within, like I said, the first week of when this all went down. And that was just based off the Strip. I just looked at more recent numbers for all of Nevada, and it's around 440,000, I guess, filed for unemployment. So that's about, 15% or so of the Nevada population, which, if you look at the Fed numbers, we're actually doing pretty good, surprisingly. But it's been pretty wild. I mean, we have our mayor, like you mentioned, that's just really a mob boss's or a mob lawyer's wife. Yeah. And she's going against Sisolak, who's our governor here. Sisolak himself seems like, you can just tell he really loves this power that he's, really given himself. And he wants to treat us really like California, or at least echo a lot of what California is doing. So we have some, infighting as far as that's going on. I know our mayor.
Well, he's echoing a lot of what California is doing because so many Californians have moved to Las Vegas in the last few years.
Right, and that seems to be a problem. Like also like in Texas and really any state that Californians move into is where they bring over, exactly pretty much why they left California in the first place. So it's been really, really interesting as far as like day-to-day life. Things are pretty easy, like convenient as far as like getting deliveries and all this kind of stuff. But right now, as things are starting to open up, we just entered phase 1. You're seeing more people wear masks. Luckily, like in the parks and things like this, I'm not really seeing anybody wear masks.
You're not seeing people jogging down the street by themselves with a freaking mask on? Because I'm even seeing that in Mexico. It's ridiculous.
I haven't seen people jogging. I've seen people walking with masks on, but for the most part, when I go outside, I see less people with masks. When you do get to like closer quarters or when you go to businesses, you will see more people wearing masks. But things are starting to open up. We did go to a restaurant, last week, actually on the first day of when they were, allowed to establish their business again. And it wasn't busy, but there were some people, and it wasn't that they weren't like crazy as far as the rules are concerned. Luckily, at least the place that we went. But I've heard much worse stories. And just yesterday, actually, we had to go to the gas station, and it just that's kind of crazy. Like at night, you see like kind of kind of some scary looking people wearing masks, like running into the gas station, grabbing some 40s, and you're just like, oh, okay, I guess this is the new normal, so.
Oh, please don't say the new normal. Well, this is one of the things. I mean, I've seen in many cases, people that have been running restaurants forever, and some guy walks in with a bandana over his face with only his eyes showing. He's got like sunglasses on in some cases, and they go, "All right, he got me." Hands up, I guess. I mean, it's crazy. Also, regarding the unemployment numbers, we have to also remember. So the Fed says basically that throughout the whole country it's like 30.7% unemployment. But we also have to remember that they only count employment or unemployment after a certain period of time. So if you bring in the labor force participation rate, we could possibly see an unemployment rate nationally at even higher than 40% right now, which is absolutely insane. So to have unemployment in Nevada slightly lower, it seems Nevada's been slightly more self-sustainable and slightly more resistant to all this insanity. Just like Arizona, I mean, there's still obviously a lot of problems like any other place in the country, but it's not like California or New York. I wanted to ask you, first of all, before we get into like the upside of certain businesses doing certain things different ways to get around these crazy laws, have you seen like the arrows in grocery stores where people are walking around with a muzzle on, following arrows of this way only, that way only? I mean, are you seeing that in Nevada?
I haven't personally, but my fiance Erin has, and yeah, I guess even one time she went to one of the grocery stores and someone yelled at them or mentioned like, hey, you're walking the wrong way or whatever, and she, of course, being her, she didn't really listen, and she just kept doing her thing.
Well, Kingsley, they're doing that now on sidewalks in New York and in parts of California. They're like spray painting arrows on sidewalks.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just saw a New York video yesterday of NYPD beating some guy up for not wearing a mask outside. So New York is definitely in a league of its own when it comes to tyranny. But fortunately, I did see the Blasio say that you're not required. We're not going to beat you up anymore if you're not wearing a mask. Oh boy, thank you. Yeah, and I saw there's another video of a woman that got her. They arrested her for not wearing a mask in a train station with her kid right there. There's a lot of those videos going around where kids are getting ripped away from their mothers. It's not good.
Where's the resistance? I mean, if it pleases the crown, can I push my child in a stroller around the block? I mean, at what point do people freak out? I mean, it's driving me crazy. I know it's not as bad in Las Vegas. It's still bad in Las Vegas, though. It's the reason I left was because I didn't want to have to deal with any of that, and I got rid of my house and came down to Vegas or down to Mexico. But I mean, at what point do people freak out and start doing something about this? I'm not saying what, but like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I think Las Vegas is going to get really bad. I mean, even with these phased reopenings, I think restaurants have to maintain a certain, percentage of occupancy that's, much lower, like I think 25-50%. I'm pretty sure about that.
And it's already really difficult to make any money in the restaurant business to begin with.
Right. And now we see, that what is, I just saw that you shared that article about Open Table, or you did a video about Open Table, 25% of restaurants apparently going to be closing. So I imagine that's going to get much worse coming here in the next, couple months, 3 months, 6 months down the road, especially with Nevada being such a tourist, based the economy based on tourism. I mean, people are starting to travel, but I'm seeing, even a lot of people that I know, my connections that are taking flights, they're saying that, flights are typically like 50% or less as far as occupancy. Right. So it's just going to be this, domino effect that we're going to see slowly come down the line.
And what you mentioned there was 25% of restaurants don't think they'll ever reopen again. And 52% of all small businesses in general in the United States don't believe that they'll be able to open again if this goes on even a couple more weeks. And just considering for a moment that they're saying, well, we're going to slowly give you guys cake, let you eat cake. We're going to open up a few things. And then down the line, how can we not believe that there's some second biological weapon wave that's going to come around that's going to affect kids this time? And now they're going to say, see, we told you so, get back into your kennel. They're pushing it past September in places like New York, around to September in Los Angeles. I mean, how are we supposed to believe that this isn't going to turn around and just become a prolonged second wave kind of lockdown going into 2021? And I have to ask, how are people in places like Nevada going to handle a thing like that? I've always heard gun-friendly state. Well, what are they going to do?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people that are that do own guns here, and there's a lot more people that own guns now. My parents actually live right down the street from a gun store, and they say like every day there's a line out the door. And we're seeing a lot of reports too of brand new first time purchasers of guns that are figuring out that it's not as easy to get a gun immediately than they thought.
This is an episode
But
of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. It's basically the same thing. So,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like you said, it's interesting to see what's going on in China as far as correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's some big cities there with millions of people that have been getting locked down again.
Two so far that I know of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about a second wave coming. So honestly, I'm kind of expecting that potentially to happen here. And then there's a strange, children's thing that's coming up that may be tied to coronavirus.
Right.
So yeah. So I think I believe there's some cases, here too. But we are seeing states like Florida seems to be kind of, fighting back a bit, or at least handling business a little bit better. We're seeing some of that in Texas, but then kind of in the big cities of Texas, not so much. And even, some cities in California too. But for the most part, California, man, yeah,
I know it's unbelievable. And I have to ask, because you mentioned this in a live stream we did a few weeks ago. There's a restaurant close to where we both lived called Lazy Dog. It's in Summerlin in Las Vegas, and it's in downtown Summerlin anyway. And they were closed down, and I heard an interesting story from you about how they kind of got around that situation by selling essentials. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty smart. I'm not sure how well it worked, but they, basically started selling stuff that they had in their supply line, and also that they had in storage for the restaurant itself. So they sold, I believe like milk and eggs and things like that. They ended up actually opening up a small portion of their menu as well. But it's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, businesses, in order to stay relevant and open and continue to make money, they have to start getting really, really creative.
You know what's super interesting about all of this is because, as people know, I'm an anarchist, and I've been looking at this from kind of the perspective of how it's affecting people's psyche, not as a political issue, but as how it's a psychological issue. People tend to bend the knee way too easily. But I've noticed regarding the gun issue, people on the right, unless you're in Michigan, are largely not doing anything and sitting on their hands because there's a Republican in office. Meanwhile, people on the left suddenly are like, I like guns. I mean, like, it's crazy. I've met so many people on the left suddenly going, owning a gun is kind of might be a good idea. I'm starting to understand why so many people like guns. And I'm meeting so many people. We're talking hippies, artsy types from Hollywood. I mean, just people that are like, I think I need a gun. I mean, how is that going to turn out when suddenly the vast population, whether you're right or left, you don't want to be forced vaccinated, whether you're right or left, you have guns, and whether you're right or left, humanity is being crushed under a boot. I mean, how is that going to turn around after, say, 5 or 6 more months of lockdown?
Yeah, the whole psychology right now is just, it is very confusing and like kind of flipped, where you have, people that Trump haters, orange man bad people.
Yeah.
They still hate Trump and disagree with Trump, but really they agree with the policies that are being enacted, or, that he's talking about enacting. And then you have people that are Trump supporters that are openly, protesting and some of them defying what's going on. So, man, it's
still defending him.
Yeah, it's really just a clown world right now. And I mean, I'm also, I think it's really important to look at what's going on in China, to see what's potentially going to happen here. The UK, also Australia, New Zealand. I don't know if you know this, but man, it seems like New Zealand now enacted the contact trace app. We already know that it's really bad in Australia, but New Zealand, I believe, has it now, where you have to use your contact tracing app to scan yourself into, I believe, any business. I was looked this up. I could be wrong, I also heard a kind of a firsthand story about this where you have to scan yourself in, or they need to write it in. I guess it's like a public list.
They're
So.
basing it on technology out of Sweden that they used in public transportation quite a few years ago. And what's crazy is that you don't even need chips anymore. They're just going to fine you if you don't have the app on your phone, and they're probably going to give away free phones to everyone. One of those kinds of Obama phones. What I can't help but consider is that they're saying that you won't be able, if you want to leave your house, if you want to go outside, if you want to go somewhere, you will have to have this contact tracing app, which means they're basically going to record where you go, who you talk to, how long you stay, every person you interact with. And in no way would anyone ever accept such a thing, except for in this situation, because they said, what's worse, be stuck in a kennel or go outside and have to be tracked? I mean, that's so over the top of Orwellian, and they're going to play it into ID 2020 and connect it with vaccines. And look, whether you like vaccines or not, I think most of us can agree that we shouldn't be put at gunpoint and told to put a needle in our arm, or else mobilize the military, or in Canada's case, round them up if they don't get it and throw them in jail as they work with the Chinese army to develop vaccines. I mean, I have to ask you, Kingsley, what's the craziest thing about this whole situation that you've seen so far? It's hard to really add up all the craziness here, but what's the craziest part of this whole apocalypse that we're witnessing right now?
Oh man, they're really, and every day there's really something new that's going on. I mean, it's crazy to hear what some things that Trump says that, and then they, of course, like while all this is going on, they push through this new Patriot Act where they don't need a warrant to get anybody's search history. So that, I mean, honestly, that really just really bothers me, because I think that's a real big violation of people's privacy. And we'll see. I think it's only going to get crazier from here. Unfortunately, I think that we a lot of people believe that things are starting to open up, things will start to get better. But I think really we're kind of only at the start or middle of this thing.
It's so false, this idea that everything's just going to suddenly go back to normal. It's definitely part of a plan. And I do want to note that there are multiple casinos in Las Vegas that are planning on opening soon. They have some COVID plan. They're going to slowly start opening doors, see what happens there. I know when I caught, I caught it at the Bellagio Casino at the Chinese New Year event that was filled with tens of thousands of Chinese nationals, many of which came from Wuhan. So that was a little ill-advised. Nonetheless, it's a bioweapon.
I remember when you texted me when you were there, I was like, oh, okay, man.
I have a video. It's the weirdest situation, because it was just like the beginning of a zombie apocalypse movie. Like, I'm looking around, I'm like, everyone's coughing and sweating and in masks, and they're all from China. And I'm like, all that I heard in the news at that time was it was just in China, but it might start spreading to the US. And there's like 2 cases in the US at the time. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this seems a little odd. But anyway, I want to move on, because closing this off, Kingsley, I have, as you know, have been demonetized by YouTube. Because according to the community guidelines on YouTube, if you go against the World Health Organization's advice, you get demonetized, and you could get your whole channel taken down on YouTube. There's a vast amount of censorship surrounding the issue of coronavirus and COVID-19. All the way back in early January, when the first news broke, somehow they knew to cut out anything that someone talked about coronavirus or COVID-19. Zero Hedge was getting suspended from Twitter, etc. I have to ask, obviously you are the CEO of Flote.app. Are you guys going to shut down everyone who talks about the plandemic?
Of course, we've already started. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, man, and then that's being escalated too. Now we're even seeing a lot of channels that weren't even into this type of alternative media type of space, and they are getting shadow banned, shut down. They're getting I think London Real is getting affected a lot. Valuetainment is getting affected. Typically a lot of people that are just covering like health or business. And if you just mention the wrong thing or interview the wrong person or just ask the wrong question, you're gone like that.
And what they mean by the wrong question is anything that's literally not what Susan Wazicki says is okay, or what Tedros, one of the former heads of the Ethiopian Communist Party at the World Health Organization, says. And it's affecting Next News Network too. I've seen, I think, over 30 of his videos have been pulled in the last month. I mean, that's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, so it's just the censorship is escalating as well with everything else, and it's really unfortunate because this is really a time now where we need kind of the, really free speech online and be able to share our experiences, talk about, potential ways to, stay healthy, taking vitamin C.
Oh, we can't say that on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Vitamin C, that's super, super controversial.
Yeah. So it's really sad to, obviously see, but every time this happens, I'm just like, okay, well, this just makes our job a lot easier. So we're seeing, a decent influx of people moving over that unfortunately don't really have an alternative choice. There are other alternative platforms out there, but our community, is growing, and we have a, more of a freedom-minded community here, crypto people on our platform, and we're, really excited about the future. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities out there on Flote, considering in the certain situation that we're in right now, where it's never been more important to share information. We can't share information anymore, and having something like Flote and BitChute and all these other platforms. But my favorite, obviously, has always been Flote.app, because you have a mix of so many things on there. You have a great community. There's a really active community. There's a lot of people that are really passionate about it. A lot of people on Flote that just deleted their Gmail accounts, deleted their YouTube accounts, deleted their Facebook accounts and Twitter, and just moved 100% to Flote. I know at least 10 offhand. So, I mean, this is really interesting how people are actually making that move, because they know it's good enough to do such a thing. In most cases, some people go, oh, maybe one day that'll get there. And Flote obviously is building. It's still in its beginning phase, but it's building fast. And as I've been trying to explain to people watching this, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's kind of just replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one. And it has encrypted private messaging. It has no algorithm, so you cannot shadow ban people on the news feed. You can have advertising very soon on all the videos if you're a creator and you've just lost all your money on another platform. And you can do super chats with crypto. I mean, I think that is really incredible, and something that not a lot of people have. I mean, I don't see that anywhere else, honestly. So, I mean, how do you think this is going to play out, having a thing like Flote around when everyone else is getting, censored elsewhere? What do you think?
Sorry, I'm just battling the cat, trying to walk into the camera again. Yeah, it's, I think that it's going to, it's like I said, I used to get upset when I would see all these headlines about, also Facebook, my Facebook feed now is just nonstop, like blurred images, CDC fact check, Snopes links or whatever. And a lot of times, I'll actually read these fact checking articles just to see how they're, if, sometimes they are right, but actually I find that about 50% of the time, at least when I look into it, the articles themselves don't really go into exactly what was being talked, or, the fact that was being checked. So
and it's our responsibility to figure out our own ideas to begin with, not to be fed them or indoctrinated. That's for public schools.
Right, exactly. So, like I said, I used to get mad when I saw all these headlines. Now I'm just like, not that it makes me happy to see people like you and other people struggling or getting censored, but like I said, it makes our job a lot easier. But at the same time, we just have to really focus on making our platform as easy as possible. We did launch in feed ads, so people can start posting ads if they want to promote something that they're doing, channels that they're creating, things that they're selling on Flotes. We're going to be transitioning that to put ads in videos so that content creators can start getting paid. We're also almost done launching Market soon, which man, we're so close. I keep saying that we're so close, but we are so close right now. And we keep testing every day, and we really want that to be a place where people can start to even kind of barter better on Flote. It might get to this point too, where it seems like a lot of things are coming more local, becoming more decentralized. I think that was a natural progression anyways, but really what they're doing right now with all this kind of centralized authoritarianism is really making the case for more people to be open to that idea. So that's kind of the silver lining about all this, is that I feel that, although there are a lot of people that are still asleep, more and more people are waking up.
Yeah, and we need that boost, that kick towards waking up a lot of the time. I think all of us have been in a situation in our life where we are completely asleep, and then you wake up, and waking up is a big part of the battle, and then there's doing something, the action that comes later. And we have to start somewhere, and on YouTube right now, it's an echo chamber. You're not allowed to reach people anymore, and it's an echo chamber on most sites. And what I find also cool about Flote is that there's people with different ideas. It's not all the same kind of ideas. People yell at me on my posts quite often, actually, and I think that's a good thing. That means that we have there's some kind of movement happening where everyone on left, right, outside of the spectrum, wherever they might be, and outside of, they don't even care about those issues, whatever it might be, they can come together in one community place and have conversations. And if they don't want to have conversations, they don't have to have conversations with those people. But it's there's diversity of thought and ideas, whereas like they used to be on Facebook, like there used to be on Twitter and YouTube, and aren't any longer. So I think that's really important going forward. And I really advise everyone, if you're watching this on YouTube, please stop. Go on Flote, go on BitChute, go on all those, because we need people to go on the alternatives to get off of YouTube, because very soon this channel will probably be deleted, and very, very likely I'll just stop posting on it either way, because there's no point to even be on YouTube anymore other than to tell everyone, here's some information that you should know about, but hey, go over to these sites and learn that information on that site. It's not that difficult, and there's a community, and you can spend all day on Flote and talk to people, and there's always stuff happening, always stuff being posted constantly. It's exactly in the sense that you always have something to look at on Facebook, you always have something to look at on Flote. The difference is Facebook it tells you what you want to, or what you're going to see, and Flote lets you decide what you want to see, and that's really important. So anyway, as we close this off, you can find me at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham, W-A-M, on flote.app, and you can find Kingsley at King. Closing it off, any last pitch for people to go check out Flote?
Yeah, I just want to say two things. Yeah, we've heard actually quite a few users that have talked about how there's like, there is discourse on Flote, but it usually a lot, our community, at least so far, it's usually like very non-toxic discourse, which, you get that on YouTube and everywhere else. So we're really, happy with our community that's growing every day. And also, yeah, please, join Flote, go to flote.app, flote.app. And it just takes about 2 seconds to create an account, and you don't know how important it is for us as a business, especially right now, especially in the fight towards free speech online and everything that's going on, how important it is just even create an account, just check it out. And other alternative platforms too, follow Josh on. And it helps us as a business. It helps us to start making more revenue so that we can keep building bigger things much faster. It helps us, talk to potential investors to be able to bring in, a lot more funding so that we can really, scale up things just by creating an account, which takes, like I said, 2 seconds. So really appreciate your audience. And I know, appreciate you, Josh, for keeping or for supporting us, continuing to support.
Yeah, well, I want to do a quick litmus test. Do you have water with you, Kingsley? Do you have a drink?
Yeah.
So, one might remember that Mark Zuckerberg looks like a reptile person when he drinks water, so we need to make sure that you're human. So take a sip, Kingsley.
All right, I'm trying to think of how he does it. What was
it? Like, there we go. He drinks like a human being. All right, well, join Flote. I hope to see you guys over there, and yeah, just stay tuned for more. We have actually posted Flote only videos already on Flote in the past, and I'm going to be posting some of my banned documentaries there right away, including my Kennedy documentary, which I aired 3 years ago and was taken down by YouTube internationally without explanation. So I'm going to be posting that on Flote right away. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And yeah, go follow me at Josh Sigurdson, at Wham. Go follow Kingsley at King. And find lots of stuff there. Share stuff, talk to people, get involved in the community. I really highly recommend it. And of course, otherwise, you can find my stuff on BitChute at World Alternative Media as well. But anyway, I really appreciate you joining us today, Kingsley. Try not to get shot by the military police out there. It's only going to get crazier. So let's all band together and fight back at some point here. It's amazing that it's gone on this long. But nonetheless, good to see you, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Thanks, you. Appreciate it.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, subscribe star. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against the mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like flote.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. Flote is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Thank you.